Handicapper Steve here, handicapping the racing from Pimlico Racecourse here on Friday. It is the 19th of May, 2023. It's Pimlico Special Black-Eyed Susan Day from Pimlico, and I'm going to look at those two races and all the other stakes races on the program. But before I get on to that, remember to please follow me on Twitter at HorseRacingKid5 for more selections for race courses around the world. And also remember, go check out my Preakness video. That should be up very soon. But it's a good card today from Pimlico. So we're going to look at the stakes races. Races 4, 9, 10, 11, 12, and 13. So race 4 and then 9 through 13. Let's get to it right now. Starting off the fourth race, which is the Allaire Dupont Distaff. It's going for a purse of $100,000. Race for fillies and mares, 3-year-olds and upwards. Field of 6 horses going to the main track. The distance of ground of 1,800 meters, if you want to go by that. Or the distance of ground of 1 mile and 1/8 on the Pimlico main track. 1,800 meters, 1 mile and 1/8 here in the Allaire Dupont Distaff. My top selection, I'm going to take the number 2 horse here, Interstate Daydream. 2614 for me in the superfecta. 2614 super. Top selection of 2 horses, Interstate Daydream. This 4-year-old followed by Classic Empire. Brad Cox trains. Florent Giroux gets to mount. The horse's most recent outing came the 21st of April at Keeneland, a mile 16th in the Grade 3 Double Dog Dare. And the horse finished 4th by 2 3/4 lengths that day. He just stalked all the way around the race course. He moved a little bit late, but the two in front of him were just a little bit better. Coming here to Pimlico, lesser quality horses should see a strong pace on a speed favoring track. I think the race is going to set up for this horse here today, as definitely run buyers that are fast enough to win this race. 2 back in the Allaire at Oakland, a mile 16th, 11th of March. She finished 3rd by 2 3/4 lengths behind Secret Oath and Clairiere. The two in front of him are great horses. They went on to run a great Apple Blossom handicap after that. This horse just got beat by classier fillies and mares that afternoon. And then the Catherine Sophia at Parks, mile 70, 23rd of August. She finished 2nd by 2 3/4 lengths that day. She was dueling on the front end, quick to the half, which cost her. She just couldn't keep up late. It wasn't her day to win. But before that, won the Indiana Oaks quite nicely by 2 1/4 lengths with a 94 buyer coming home, and won over the course and distance here last year in the Black-Eyed Susan with a 92 buyer, winning by 1 1/4 lengths with a stupidly wide poster at 6.5 to 1. I thought it was a very good effort. Refreshing here, training well, Churchill. I know she's even money, but she's a very likely winner. I think your second likeliest winner is your second choice here, the 6-horse Falconet for Alrada Tees Jr. and Todd Pletcher. Most recently in the Top Flight Invitational at Aqueduct over the mile and 1/8. She went by 2 1/4 lengths, and she had a dream trip from the inside. She stalked, she got the lead, and she beat home Kathleen O, which was a very good effort for this horse that day. Prior to that, around the 1 turn, she doesn't like it in the Heavenly Prize at Aqueduct. She finished 2nd by 6 1/4 lengths behind Frost Point. She was just wide, and she wants a longer trip. On New Year's Day, she won the ladies' handicap by 2 lengths from a little bit of a wide trip. She took off clear there. Since they figured her out at that Churchill race where she placed, she's really become a better horse. She's loved Aqueduct over the winter. Her buyers have been going up, training well. I'll give her a shot on the multis also. But to recap my selection for the 4th from Pimlico, it's the Allaire Dupont Distaff. Let's take the 2-horse Interstate Daydream. Give kudos to the 6-horse Falconet. 2614 super. 2-6 in your multi-race. So we're going to head over to race number 9 now from Pimlico, Old Hilltop. It is the Very 1 Stakes. It's going for a purse of $100,000. Race for fillies and mares, 3-year-olds and upwards. We have a field of 11 horses entered. Keep in mind the 7 horse is an MTO, so 10 will head to the turf course. The distance of ground of 1,000 meters, or the distance of ground of 5 furlongs on the Pimlico turf course. 1,000 meters, 5 furlongs here in the Very 1 Stakes. My top selection, I'm going to take a shot with the number 6 horse here, Spun Glass. 6928 for me in the superfecta. 6928 super. Top selection, 6 horse, Spun Glass. This 6-year-old mare by Hard Spun. Michael Trombetta trains. Fergal Lynch gets the mount. The horse's most recent outing came the 14th of April at Aqueduct, 6 furlongs, an optional 80 claimer, and the horse finished 4th by 1 3/4 lengths. That race could have been a stakes race. That's the good quality she's faced. She only faced 4 of the rivals, but it was a good quality group. She stalked all the way around the race course. She moved a little bit late. She ran her heart out that day. Nothing bad about that race. Maybe she needed the race first start back up north. Refreshing to Pimlico here today. She will see a strong pace, better poster than she had in this race last year. I think she's coming into this one to run a good race here today. She hasn't found the winner's circle on wire, but she's sitting on that good race. 2 back at the Lightning City at Tampa, 5 furlongs to 18th of February. She finished 5th by 3 1/4 lengths that day. And again, she sat back early from a wide pit trip. She moved a little bit late, but she still needs something more there. And then the Bonita Stakes at Gulfstream on Christmas Eve over the 5. She finished 6 by 2 1/4 lengths that day. She was just a little bit wide and just couldn't keep up that day, but had a very nice place in an allowance race at Laurel over the 5.5. And then won the Camtown at Colono quite nicely, and then won the Jamila at Laurel quite nicely over the summer, coming home with mid 80 buyers that could definitely win against these horses. She ran this one last year where she had a very, very wide trip and not keeping up. Can the Queen, who's running back in this one today, really ran a terrific race on the front end. This horse just wasn't catching her, but coming here today, I think she's a better horse since last season. I'm going to take her at 10-1. I think his second likeliest winner here is the 9 horse Her Word for Ira Ortiz Jr. and Wesley Ward. Most recently, Keelan over the 5.5 in an allowance race. She won by a head, and she sat on the front end all throughout and got the job done. Not the most flashy victories, but she got the job done. Prior to that, an allowance race at Turfway over the 6 furlongs on the Tapeta, she won by 1/4 lengths that day, and basically she won it on the front end. Very easy race. Didn't even get the whip. Basically a paid workout, a typical Wesley Ward older horse kind of race at Turfway. She should have won the race before, though, where she just stalked that day. She didn't get to the front end on the 11th of January Turfway going 6.5. She finished 5th by 4.5 lengths, and she just couldn't keep up that day. It was her first start since May, so maybe she needed the race. Prior to that, at Monmouth, 5.5 in a lounge race, she finished second by a half length, and she was dueling. She had to steady a few times, which probably cost her, but she ran her heart out there, coming home with a 76 buyer. Refreshing here, training well, Keelan. I'll give her a shot on the ticket. And also watch out for the 2 horse here, trained to Artemis for Paco Lopez. Most recently in the Giants Causeway, the horse just really wasn't keeping up with those horses, but had a very nice place in the Captiva Island and won the Lightning City of Tampa from a stalking trip. Again, another horse that the buyers could definitely win. Has a good inside poster. Watch out for this horse at 3-1. But to recount my selection for the 9th now from Pimlico, it is the DeVery 1 Stakes. Let's take the 6 horse Spun Glass. Give kudos to the 9 horse Her World and the 2 horse Trained to Artemis. 6-9-2-8 Super. 6-9-2 in your multi-race. The 10th race from Pimlico now, it is the Miss Preakness Stakes. It's a grade 3 event going for a $150,000 purse, race for 3-year-old fillies. 7 horses are going to the main track. The distance of ground here of 1,200 meters, or the distance of ground of 6 furlongs on the Pimlico main track. 1,200 meters, 6 furlongs here in the Miss Preakness. My top selection, I'm going to go with the number 2 horse here, Key of Life. Let's go 2, 4, 5, 6 in the superfecta. 2, 4, 5, 6 super. Top selection is 2 horse Key of Life. This 3-year-old filly by Motown. Brad Cox trains. Flavian Pratt gets the mount. The horse's most recent outing came 16th of April at Keeneland. About 7 furlongs in the Beaumont Stakes, and the horse won by a neck that day. And basically on the front and all throughout, she was kind of, decrease in margin victory late. Maybe the 7 was just slightly too long for her, but she ran her heart out, dug in late, coming home with a 92 buyer. She had a very good gritty performance, cutting back to 6, which I think should suit her better. She should, on a speed favoring track, she should run a good race and find the winner's circle again. 2 back in the Purple Martin at Oaklawn, 6 furlongs, 25th of March. She won by 3 1/4 lengths and broke like a bullet out of the gate and basically won it after leaving the chute. She was on the front and all throughout, came home with a 91 buyer. That was a very good, easy race for her there. And then the Dixie Belle at Oaklawn on the mud, 6 furlongs, 11th of February. She finished 3rd by 3 lengths that day. She just kind of raided that day, and she just couldn't keep up. Maybe she needed the race there. And the Ferns Creek at Churchill over the 6.5. She finished 3rd by 3 1/4 lengths. It was a very tough race that afternoon, so she was facing tough competition. She had a little bit of a tough trip around the turn, which probably cost her, but a lot of those horses have been coming and running good races since then. And then she won the Myrtlewood at Keeneland in late October quite nicely with an 85 buyer. She's a fast horse on a fast track. I expect her to run a good race. Even money, I'm going to take her. I can understand singling her, but if you want a bit of a price here, the 4 horse Afternoon Tea could run a good race. She's going to have to jump quite a few buyer points, but it wouldn't surprise me if she gets the job done. Most recently, Keeneland, 7 furlongs in a main special weight in early April. She won by a neck, and she was stupidly wide, but she dug in to get the job done. A very good race for her there. And then on debut at Oaklawn on the slop, 6 furlongs in a main special weight. She finished 3rd by 3 1/4 lengths that day. And again, closed up from nowhere. Not a bad race. If there's going to be a pace duel on the front end where Key of Life and, say, the 6 horse Maple Leaf Mel go at it on the front end. If the pace meltdown is going to happen, it wouldn't surprise me if Afternoon Tea kind of picks up the pieces. I'll use her in the pick 4 or the pick 5, whatever. But I can understand singing Key of Life also, because I think she's a superior animal considered to the other ones. But to recount my selection now for the 10th from Pimlico, it is the Miss Preakness. Let's take the 2 horse Key of Life. Give kudos to the 4 horse Afternoon Tea. 2, 4, 5, 6 Super. 2, 4 in your multi race. The 11th race now from Pimlico. It is the Hilltop Stakes. It's going for a purse of $100,000, race for 3-year-old fillies. We have a field of a dozen horses going to the lawn, the distance of ground of 1,600 meters, or the distance of ground of 1 mile on the Pimlico turf course. 1,600 meters, a mile here in the Hilltop. My top selection, I'm going to go with the number 1 horse, Breath Away. Let's go 111.82 in the superfecta. 111.82 super. Top selection, 1 horse, Breath Away. 3-0 filled by Baithead Breath. Christophe Clement trains. Joel Rosario gets the mount. 2-1. The horse's most recent appearance came the 1st of April at Gulfstream. 7.5 furlongs in Sanibel Island. And the horse won by 2.5 lengths that day. And he sat back early, a little bit wide. But when he had the turn of foot, he took off clear. A very good, strong performance coming home with an 87 buyer. Coming here today, could sit close like she did on debut at Gulfstream or come from behind. I think the horse could run a good race and win today. Two back, and also gets Rosario up, who's the best finishing rider in the country. 2 back at Alps 75 at Gulfstream, off the turf on the Tapeta, mile 70 on the 12th of February. He finished second by a nose that day, and he had a little bit of a tough trip, was drifting a little bit late. You know, I don't know if he liked the Tapeta, but he nearly won, but it wasn't, even if he won, it wasn't a great performance that day. He had a lot of learning to do. And then on debut on the 8th of January at Gulfstream, 7.5 in the main special weight, winning by a half a length, a little bit of a wide trip, didn't break so well, but had a great turn of foot at the top of the lane, great ride by Rosario, quickened up nicely. 63 buyer on debut, nothing bad about that race. He's training well since coming up north, half-mile drill on the 12th of May, which was last Friday at Belmont on the inner turf course, 51-4, the 6th best workout of 6, and a 5-furlong workout of pace than the Friday before in 102 3/5 of a second. So I think he's rearing to go, should get a good trip here today. I'm going to use him. It wouldn't surprise me if the 11 horse here, Well Into, for Jonathan Thomas and Luis Saez, gets a good trip and wins. Most recent, the Appalachian at Keeneland over the mile on the 8th of April. The horse finished 4th by 2 1/4 lengths that day and was very wide. Went left out of the gate, which probably cost me kind of, just used a little bit too much too soon that day. I would like to see him stalk today from an outside poster, but don't go so at it on the front end early on. 12th of March was the previous race at Gulfstream, mile 16th and Alps 75, where he won by 2 1/4 lengths and basically won for fun. A very good, easy race from there. And then on the 22nd of January at Gulfstream, mile 16th in main special weight, won by 2 1/4 lengths again. 111.3 3/4. If you went off of that, you're going to go away with it nicely. And he came home with a 77 buyer. Good race. He's training well at Keeneland. Half-mile drill last week and a quick 47-3. I expect him to run a good race. I'll use him on the ticket. And also a bit of a price. The 8 horse up and down for Chad Brown and Manny Franco. Won a main special weight at Keeneland over the mile last month, quite nicely by 2.5 lengths, and really took off clear from a wide trip. On debut at Saratoga on the Mellon in a 5.5 main special weight, he finished 4th by 2 1/4 lengths that day and basically lost all chance at the beginning, where he never broke well, was wide throughout, and also I do think the trip was too short, but he did really improve with the next race. Coming here today, it wouldn't surprise me at 6-1. We'll use him in the pick 4. But to recount my selection for the 11th now from Pimlico, it is the Hilltop. Let's take the number 1 horse, Breath Away. Give kudos to the 11 horse, Well Into, and the 8 horse, Up and Down. 111.82 super, 111.8 in your multi-race. The 12th race now from Pimlico, it's the co-featured. It is the Pimlico Special. It's a grade 3 event going for a $250,000 purse. Race for 3-year-olds and upwards. We have a field of 8 horses going to the Pimlico main track. The distance of ground of 1,900 meters, or the distance of ground of a mile 3/16 on the Pimlico main track. 1,900 meters, a mile 3/16 here in the Pimlico Special, a race very rich in history. It was a grade 1 almost, 20 years ago, and so many good horses have run in it over the years. One thing I wish they would have kept, in 2019, they ran this race at 1.25 miles, and I thought that was the best Pimlico Special I've probably seen in 15 years at the time. Then they reverted it back to a mile 3/16, but hopefully they can run that 1.25 mile trip again, because that was very fun. I think you saw like a 14-horse field too, which was unusual for Pimlico. But with that being said, my top selection here in the special, I'm going to take the number 5 horse here, Law Professor. 5.726 for me in the superfecta. 5.726 super. Top selection of 5 horse, Law Professor. This 5-year-old gelding by Constitution, who I believe won this race in 2014 or 15. Rabatras trains. Manny Franco gets the mount. Horse's most recent outing came the 1st of April at Aqueduct. Muddy Seal going a mile and 1/8 in the Excelsior. And the horse won by 4 1/4 lengths that day. And he stalked all the way around the race course. He was a little bit wide, but when he took off clear, he got the job done. Wasn't the world's toughest race, but he dug in there to get the job done. The longer trips that suit him well is with the Constitution on the go zapper on the dam side, even with, and Constitution being by Tappet. This horse could run probably 3 miles and still not got tired. Coming here today, I think he should really run a good race. Two back in the Razorback handicap at Oakland on mile 16th, 18th of February. He finished third by 8.5 lengths. He got beat by two decent horses, Last Samurai and West Will Power. Both went on to win next start out along with this one, so the format of that race isn't half bad. This horse just kind of stalked. He got beat by better horses that day, but he ran his heart out there. And the Queens County Stakes at Aqueduct, mile 8th on the 7th of January, winning by 7.25 lengths. Didn't have the best beginnings, was a little bit wide, but when he got to the front and he basically walked under the wire, that was a good victory, coming home with a career best 98 buyer. Prior to that, in the Brews Cup Dirt Mile at Aqueduct over the mile, at Keeneland over the mile, he finished 5th by 7.5 lengths that day, and he just never really got going. He just a little flat that day against the tough horses. And then the Woodward at Aqueduct on the slop over the mile and 8th. He placed behind Life is Good. He just wasn't catching him that day, but he ran a decent second. Coming here today, should get a good trip. Watch out for him. I think a second likeliest winner here is the number 7 horse, Speed Bias, for Juan Moquette and Luis Saez. First time stakes quality horses, but I think he wants to mile 3/16. Most recently, on the 22nd of April at Oakland, a mile 16th in Optional 75, he finished second by a half length. He set the pace. He got caught at the wire, but he showed some potential that day. Really not going down without a fight. Prior to that, in mid-March at Oakland on the slop, mile and 8th in Optional 50, he finished second by 2.25 lengths. He stalked. He had the lead. He got overtaken, but again, he showed potential there. And then he won on the front end at Oakland in an allowance race. He won it going 13 3/4, but winning by 5.5 lengths. He basically won for fun. Coming here today to a longer trip, wouldn't surprise me if he gets the job done. I'll use him training well at Churchill and at Oaklawn. And also watch out for the 2 horse here, Rattle and Roll. If there's a closer that's going to win, it could be him. Won the Baton Alley quite nicely with a 101 buyer last time out. And defeat in the New Orleans Classic, he finished 4th, where he was getting late, but just a little bit too late, came home with 100 buyer. His buyers have been quite high recently. Won the Oklahoma Derby, won the St. Louis Derby last season. Watch out for him, but, this race is usually conquered by speed. But to recap my selection for the 12th now from Pimlico, it is the Pimlico Special, the historic Pimlico Special. I'm going to take as a top selection the 5 horse Law Professor, give kudos to the 7 horse Speed Bias and the 2 horse Rattle and Roll, 5726 Super, 572 in your multi-race. Let's get to the featured or co-featured 13th race now from Pimlico, which is the Black-Eyed Susan Stakes. It's a grade 2 event going for a $300,000 purse, race for 3-year-old fillies. We have a dozen horses heading to the main track, which is the starting gate is positioned at the 8th mile pole, or the distance of ground of a mile and 1/8 on the Pimlico main track. 1,800 meters, a mile and 1/8 here in the Black-Eyed Susan. My top selection, I'm going to go with the number 9 horse here, Fazia. I'm going to go 9-4-8-7 in the superfecta, 9-4-8-7 super. Top selection, I'm going to single her in the multi-race, the 9 horse Fazia. 3-year-old filly by Gervin. Bob Baffert trains. Flavian Pratt gets the mount. Horse's most recent outing came at Santa Anita, a mile 16th, 8th of April in the Santa Anita Oaks, and the horse won by 6.25 lengths that day, and basically stalked. She got the lead, and she walked under the line. An 89 buyer. That was a very good race. She's coming to the East today for the first time, has a lot of speed and has a lot of grittiness about her. I think she could really run a good race and improve off that run. 2 back in the Santa Jezebel at Santa Anita, mile 16th, 5th of March. She won by 2.25 lengths, and again, from a tracking trip, she didn't break so well. It was a little bit wide, but she took off clear late. A very good run for her there. And then the Las Verges Stakes at Santa Anita, 1 mile, 20th of January. She won by a half a length. And again, not the best of beginnings that day, but she really took off clear. She sometimes doesn't break, which could be or doesn't get the cleanest out of the gate, which could be a key with her. But getting Flavian Pratt up, which should suit her quite nicely. I think she could really, take off clear. If you go back to that Hollywood Starlet Stakes, she really, showed gritty performance that day, closing up from nowhere to win. On debut, she won quite nicely. She's a good horse. They bought her for $750,000. She's training well. She's running well. 7-5. I know it's a shit price, but she's a very likely winner. If there could be a small upset, the 4 horse Merlaza for Brad Cox and Florent Giroux. Most recently in the Black Type Stakes over the mile at Oakland, she won by a length, closing up from mid-pack. I didn't think it was a half bad race. And then at the Fairgrounds, winning by 3 over the mile 16th. That race wasn't half bad. The Fairgrounds horses have been running okay since shipping out of the Fairgrounds, but something I've noticed, the buyers have been coming out very high there, maybe a little bit too high over the winter. winter. They came out high at Oaklawn and at Fairgrounds and also at Turfway, so just keep that in mind. And the horses haven't been really running great, but they haven't been running crap either. But I don't know if they're running to those good high buyers that they've been facing. But coming here today, definitely could get the exacta, but can she beat Fazio? That's going to be a big question. I don't think so. I'm going to single Fazio on the pick 4. But to recap my selection for the 13th now from Pimlico, it is the Black Eyed Susan. Going to take the 9-horse Fazio. We'll go 9, 4, 8, 7 super. We'll single the 9 in the multi-race. With that being said, good luck to all. Remember to join me tomorrow for my Preakness preview, and follow me on Twitter at HorseRacingKid5 for more selections for race courses around the world. Good luck, everybody.